don't even look up my notes.
Is there extra copy? Is there extra copy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Well, You're keeping me in the dark.
I was.
And we're doing that
Absolutely.
purposely.
Smart.
Yeah, this was sent out to you guys probably like 3 months ago. I forget the title of it, but it's just the one that has all of the different commentary on some of the different questions. So
Oh,
we
it's
just-
November version,
Sure,
November.
got like 9 million
2023.
versions, so.
All right, it is 5:00 PM and we will start the November 8th meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee. Thank you all for being here. And our topic today was talk about or have a discussion about the action items that go with our plan. These action items, if everybody will remember, this was all stuff, more or less, was all collected from the public meetings. I think, Mayor, is that correct? May have come in, public meetings and through the website, et cetera. And it was consolidated consolidated by Planning Next. They took and put things into larger piles that were similar in context.
Well, some was, some wasn't. Like some of the corporate stuff that came out in the late survey we did, I don't think any of that was incorporated. There was a number of things that missed being discussed from direct community input, and then we did a series of outreaches to the community late in the game, and none of that is.
All of that was shared with Planning Next and they reviewed it and felt like it fit under existing action items or goals or objectives.
Yeah, I thought we had addressed all that stuff, Jim, when they came in. And, yeah, as the mayor said, I thought we had taken it and put it into one of the buckets that was already existing.
No, particularly not the corporate stuff, because that's where some of the things came out regarding drugs, crime, some of the more serious issues came out in that second round of items from the community. And some of the more serious comments, so
And that,
we were aware of it. You're right that we got copies of it.
Yeah.
But there was never a discussion about incorporating it into this document, because I was looking forward to that discussion.
I believe that we did incorporate some of that, if you recall, under. Let's see, we can arrange things. It was incorporated into the safe community.
Sure. Sorry.
We put them kind of more on the operational side of things, as well as then the safe community. We had added kind of broad items.
Well, that's a good point, I guess. That's actually a great point, because talking with Jeff a little bit, Jeff, I don't want to take anything away from where you're going to drive this direction, but how specific do we actually need to get is a really good question. It's a great question. Because we have a pretty good document right now.
Yeah, Jim, thank you. Denny, you had asked for a time to make a comment and a suggestion.
Yeah.
And
Won't take long.
no, go right ahead. I will let you get into that first before I.
It has to do with dragging this out
Okay.
any longer. It's been, you mentioned 2 years. It seems like it's been that. We could have launched an Apollo space mission, I think, at the time that we spent on it. And I don't want to lose people, but I guess I'm getting a little bit tired of it. And would like to suggest that you set a time frame, either December 31st, January 30th, whatever, and say, we're going to get through this and get done with it. We sort of maybe curtail our comments that sometimes get to be a little bit redundant or verbose or something like that, however you want to word it. But I guess I would suggest that we make our comments brief and say we're going to be done by such and such a date, and we can stick to that. And we already have worn out our welcome, I think, with the consultants. They have the price a little bit. We understand that, that they're on the clock as well. And willingly paid or agreed to pay that extra fee. But I think it is incumbent of us to take that into consideration and move this along rather expeditiously. And I say that including all of us. It's not a criticism, it's just an observation.
Point well taken, Tennyson. And with that, actually, I think my comments tend to kind of fit into that general idea, because here's my thoughts on the action items, and what we could consider to do going forward. You all remember that currently the process for action items or changes to this, additions, subtractions, changes to be made to the strategic plan is going to go to council rules committee. Am I correct on that? That's,
So sorry, I just got distracted for a second. It's still just live streaming. I don't know why I keep showing the other computer, but what council rules, what we recommended they review is how public input at committee meetings is just kind of brought into the fold, for lack
correct.
of a better term.
So public comments, anything, and that would be essentially the beginning of anything new coming to the plan.
I think the big thing, oh, sorry. go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the big thing that we have to decide now is what we want to do with the existing action items.
Understood.
And I think before we kind of started going through that more detailed process, we said, do we want to farm them out to other committees that are, you have the expertise, or just consider them all within this committee?
So I just was, I was bringing people up to date, everybody up to date, so we understood where we were at today. So we're waiting for rules committee to get together and pull that together. And that'll happen towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, as that committee looks at any new changes to council's rules. With that in mind, I would suggest, instead of going through these and taking the time and effort to go through, we know it's been a difficult path to get to this point, which I think we've got a great document, we've got a great plan in place. I would suggest that we allow the action items come through that process organically.
When you say organically, you mean-
Through
To the committee.
either get it to the committees and allow them to take a look at it, or for the community, bring those to them as we go forward and let it work its way through that process, versus this group taking on all of these in this document here.
And then give it to the committees.
It'll go through the process that we are setting up. I think that's a worthwhile discussion. So then that was just the discussion point that I was going to bring up today.
So you would see all of these different action items being recommended to various council committees. Those committees having discussion and vetting them how they see fit, and then making a recommendation to council for it to be adopted. And then council would vote on their report, recommending the action item be added or, however they see that action item. And then as they are reviewed and approved by council, then they will get added to the document.
Yeah, so essentially they'll work the process, right?
Mhm, yeah.
And actually it gives us an opportunity with a kind of a known set of items to vet the process. We can also see if there's any issues with it. We may have missed something along the line.
Would that come back to this committee before it goes directly to city council?
I would think if they would change the plan, it has to through.
Yeah, per our,
Chart.
the
Chart.
The process that we
Yeah,
never
process,
actually
sure,
got.
process, thank you.
The
The process, it'll end up back here for final approval before it goes to council.
only thing I would differentiate with you, Christine, on would be the word recommended to the committees. There's nothing that committee that's here that precludes a committee from doing its job or precludes a committee from enhancing things they want to do if it's a council committee moving forward, or you as an elected official or me as an elected official. we haven't even touched on things that I would put in here for initiatives for the finance component of what we have. So the advantage of that is, I think organic's the right word, because rather than us sending a list of tasks, you've said, hey, here's the community input that we gathered. If it's appropriate for your committees, consider it, decide how you want to act on it, or what you want to do.
So how do you see these existing action items that came from the public being distributed to the council? Or do you see the council committees just being given this and they choose which ones they take up?
I think the answer to that is yes, isn't it? In other words, it's.
Well, I guess I don't.
No, I see your point, Christina. I think,
I don't,
go ahead.
well, I'm thinking you can't hardly do two, because what if every committee says, I don't want to deal with,
Any. Well, they're not-
yeah, or that, I was gonna say some of them, but yeah.
they're not-
So I think it has to be the first one.
Yeah,
If they don't want to, they're not.
I
going
mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I agree, because I don't want, these were all things that we heard from the public and they warrant at least discussion or consideration. And then a committee saying, no, we're not gonna discuss that further for whatever reason. Rather than, I just don't want them to disappear because we.
Right, and some of
followed
them are very straightforward, and can just go straight in, but I don't think, unless somebody really doesn't want it, but I think it needs to be discussed if they're gonna take it out.
I guess that would be my only concern with the process of going to a committee, is if we're saying it ultimately is still coming back to us and not just being recommended to the larger council, then I guess, are we just delaying the inevitable? Because if it comes back to this group and we just say no, then what was the point of the other group doing all the work?
Comment in here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I think it would only come back here if they're looking to change the document.
That's
That's
the
what I
whole
think.
point of what this,
The statement you just made, though, I think is contradictory in the sense that it's the committee's role, and anything that we put in that plan has to go to a different committee. You know, it's not this committee's job to tell council what to do, it's this committee's job, we set the goals and standards, and ultimately each of the council's committees are going to decide what they are and not going to do. And then if they say, plus, we think this particular item needs to be adopted by the plan, send that to strategic planning, and these initiatives, this is what we're going to do, and we want legislation funding this, that's going to go to council. In other words, I don't think, yeah, I think it's very clear to me anyways, that if they know what things are in their purvey, that council committee should decide. In other words, you shouldn't, this committee shouldn't decide for water and sewer what water and sewer is working on. We should say what our goals are, we should say what the overriding goals are for the city, but ultimately water and sewer has to make the decisions for recreation or the airport authority. And we can't, the airport authority is a separate board, for example. We just say this is what we want to see.
There.
I need time to digest what was just said, because I think a strategic plan and the majority of the items that are in here are very broad to set out a vision for the community. And I would agree that each of the council committees and administration has the responsibility to execute those items. But I would say that the document, the framework that has been put out there is not a strategic plan. It is a guiding document for what should become our strategic plan. And I believe the majority of the items in here are items that we would want adopted for then to hold accountable city council, the administration, the community to act upon them. I don't think the majority of them are going to be, so I guess my long and short of it is, sounds like, Auditor Stashak, that there are some of them that you think, if they go to the committee's just going to act on them, they don't need to be a part of the plan. But I think that the point of the plan is that it is something that is long-term and can be referenced back to. And some of the items may, if they just take action on it, it doesn't also become documented that it is something that we should be regularly reviewing, going back to. If that makes sense.
Okay, back to your statement, you kind of lost me on the whole organic thing of exactly what you meant. I'm sorry.
Sure, no,
It's,
just
it's
things
me,
coming-
I think, but, were you saying that this committee might not like do any of these?
As far as when you say do, what?
Well, not do once they're in the plan, but say that, like, this, yes, adopt that this one should be in here. I mean, I have, looked at this in great detail for a while, because we haven't even met for a little while, but
Sure.
I mean, I think some of these, I don't know that I can think of a specific committee that already exists that it needs to go to. Like, for example, I think we went through about 3 of these back when we started one day and never got any farther. So we were up to maintain an updated disaster plan, which is just clear cut, simple, and needs absolutely nothing as far as I'm concerned. And it should just be in there, but I can't think of a committee that would really go to. That's just something that we want to make sure that the administration checks that once every, I don't know, year, 2 years, 3 years, and make sure it's up to date, that, if, they decide to make a room in the basement where they used to meet into a sewing room or something. I mean, I'm being facetious, but you know what I mean? That, hey, we need to come up with a different room, but just keep it updated. But that's for them to do, but just for us to have in here that needs to be kept updated. I don't think that needs to be farmed out to the committee. I think it's, so I guess that was my question. When we go through these, that, this and this might be water. I know there's a couple things in here could go to the street committee or, whatever, some of the snow removal, and I think there was some stuff in here with that.
Sure.
But I think there's some, and this is going to be, and this is going to C, and hey, we can just do this one here, we're good, check off, then they go. Was that part of your organic plan, or was your plan that we want to farm them out all out to someone?
I think, actually, probably a little bit of both, but more the organic side, things coming to us, sorry.
Sorry, that just makes me think of produce. I'm sorry, it just loses me for this.
Expensive produce.
Yeah.
So, things coming to us. Mayor makes a good point. These were all things that were brought to us by the public through this process. There's probably some expectation from them that they'll at least be discussed and somehow be vetted or to see if they can be done or not, if it's viable. Although I guess Mayor, your comment about the strategic plan isn't currently a strategic plan as we currently adopted. Would you talk about that a little bit more? I guess I'm missing that point.
Yeah, I don't think it's complete. It's a good framework and guiding principles, but at this point, it's not saying, and here's how you're going to execute upon that. And I feel like a strategic plan sets out not only the vision, but the steps you're going to take to get there. And I think that right now, we have some level of that. But I think that there are certain things that, again, if we're saying, okay, in 10 years, when none of us are here, these are still the guiding principles, and here are the things that should be looked at, or, some of them are accomplished, some of them are, disaster plans, right? Those are things that we should just regularly be holding accountable. So I think it's just lacking a little bit from the.
Jeff, sir, to that example, I think that's a good example of something that's a requirement for the administration to do. There being a training that's required, certain functions, and plans be put in place. Those are requirements. So as far as that goes, there are examples in here of that. There are items in here which we cannot do, which are not in our purvey under 71701. We're not allowed as municipal corporations to touch. There are items in here that are county operations that are listed in here. I think to Dennis's point, I agree that it's not in our interest to belabor it, but I do believe what we're looking at here, there are some folks who are very, very interested in certain things being pushed in here that are not associated with city government or have very good, very strong, or not so good reasons that they're in here. There's nothing your committees, or the administration, or an elected official for the city of Finley can't do that this strategic plan that we've already adopted doesn't allow for. It either conforms with the plan or it doesn't. To be an elected official and say, Well, we've already done, for the most part, the first one, right? Complete design, construction, district center for Finley Police and Fire and Training. So if I was gonna address that, I would say, and make it pretty. For me, that's a personal feeling, but that's not something that I think is a strategic planning item. I think that's an operational and an administrative decision as to whether it can be pretty up or not. So I think we're also risking crossing the line of ethics, we're risking crossing the line of what the law allows for, we're risking crossing the line of what our functions are, and we're also risking crossing the line of what administrative duties are versus elected officials' discretion. Elected officials, each one of you who have committees, who have a role, including myself, should have some discretion as well in terms of how we operate our positions in our offices. And I would not want to do anything which would jeopardize that discretion.
As I look at these, seems to be two different the categories of action items. There's the ones that would be a one-time look at, and it'd be a yes or no, and it either fall off or be done and then go away. So for instance, have all first responders carry Narcan. That's either you're gonna do it or you're not type of thing, and then it falls off the plan, right? Then there's things that would be on there if it was included, would be there forever. Developed by biannual survey of residents. That to me is something that would never fall off, potentially. Maintain the highest level of water quality. That's pretty general. And it would never come out. So, and I guess maybe that's the differentiation that I'm looking at, or the things that are being one time you look at them and say, yes, this is worth pursuing, or no, it is not, so it falls off, or it continues through the process. Versus the things that should be in there, like maintain high water quality. So I guess that just takes us back to the original question, is what do we do with those two different categories of things?
So I think I would motion that the administration go through the action items that have been presented and bring back to this committee a recommendation on where they get assigned. Some of them are just administrative items. Some are the different committees. I think trying to do that via committee would be complicated. I think we can bring it back to this group and then you can just say, yep, those sound good, or I think this one should go to a different committee. I think once we do that, that then really allows us to give the different committees an opportunity to start vetting them and decide, okay, is this an ongoing kind of just operational thing? Is this a one-time get it done thing, or is it something that we don't even think is worth mentioning, but it's really just something that doesn't need adopted, but is something that we should pay attention to?
I guess I would ask the question before we conclude that motion. Would it be wiser for the administration to bring back the administrative items that they would like to see and allow council to have the discretion as to what items they would want to see signed to committees? Hence the process we've already started. In other words, I don't think the administration. The biggest criticism of council in this community is that it's driven, it's not deciding, it's not taking the initiative itself. Wouldn't it be wiser for council to take the initiative to choose itself? And so if I would say, hey, these are things that are here that I'm good with, and I don't think it needs to be in, or I think it needs to be in that discussion, you say, hey, these are things that me and my people good with, these should be in, these should, and approach it that way, but I think we should stay out of council stuff.
Stay out of council stuff, Jim. I don't understand.
Council's turf or the airport board's turf.
Oh, okay.
Water and sewer's turf.
Yeah, I guess I would just,
finish your comment, because I've got a thought.
No, well, I was just gonna say though, that ultimately the administration pretty much provides all the administrative support for any of these things to get done. We're the ones that are gonna be gathering information, bringing staff and doing all that thing. So we're gonna be involved in all of these. So I would, Jim, to your point though, I am happy to facilitate working with each of the committee chairs to say, hey, here are all the action items. Which ones do you want to see? Your committee take the lead on. But it's literally pretty much what I was going to do anyway, so if I need to
Right.
explicitly say that, I can explicitly say that. But some of these are pretty easy that, they're gonna go to certain committees, some are just gonna be administrative, et cetera.
I was gonna add to your motion, Mayor, expand it just a little bit. I think that it would be the administration taking on this list is one thing. I think actually the committee should do this. Everybody should take this document, go through, read through it real quick, and you can, this will take you 30 minutes to write on there what committee you think it would go to. Is it in? Should it not be considered at all? And the administration would be a place where it would potentially drop into also, right? So administration or committee. And Jim, to your point, should it even be considered? Because you've got some concerns about some of these items that should not, or not in our purview, which is fine. It's good discussion. And then we'll come back at the next meeting and go through that quickly. It'll give us something to each, hey, what did everybody on this one? And we can go through it.
I'm all for that. That's what we were supposed to do at our meeting 3 or 4 meetings ago.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, yeah.
So I have all of my notes already of which committee I think it's.
Can I add a comment?
Please.
You mentioned that maybe some of these things would get scrubbed or eliminated and Jim kind of went on that track as well. That kind of gives me a little bit of heartburn in that we went to great lengths to get community input, post-it notes, pop-up tents, all sorts of sessions.
Right.
Now, we're going to come along and scrub it and eliminate some of those things that people have said. Or
Some of them,
Well, yeah.
maybe not be able to do it. But they're all there because the citizens have, because it's on the list and it's come from citizens and other input, be it citizens or the other surveys we've done. It wants a review and a response. And one of the responses can be that we are statutorily not allowed to do these things, but at the end of it, each one of these should have a response as to what we looked at, what we determined. I mean, taking the Narcan example, you can't just say yes or no. You can look at it and say, well, the cost to have everybody carry Narcan and receive the proper training, whatever it is this. The negatives is the here's the positives, et cetera. Because we've already done that a little bit with how our police and fire carry, what they carry or do not carry. But so that when then we create a response to this document that says carry Narcan. Here's our investigation into it and why we are or are not doing or how we're going to meet that response. And I think that's what it is. So I don't believe this committee should have a veto on it. Everything gets investigated, but the investigation can after due diligence, you can say no for various reasons, but stated publicly, we publish it. That's part of the response that we do. Here's the plan. Here's what you said, citizens. Here's what we're doing now. And this isn't a 1 year thing. This is a multi-year thing. Part of it is prioritization. What do you look at first? But I think that's what our response should be.
Sorry, got excited. Yeah, and what will, if it's okay with you guys, I think what would help organize it is we can put together a Excel spreadsheet or something that like a little matrix where it has each of the action items and then the various committees and another option, and then people can go through and fill it out and bring it back to discuss, and then we can also culminate those. I think that'd be an easy way to help organize people's
That's a
responses.
to-do list item for you, Jack.
She already texted me and was volunteering. She could read my thoughts, because that's actually what I was
That was
envisioning.
weird, I didn't see her check her phone yet, I was like, that's.
No, I literally had thought that, and then I saw you say it, and I was like, yep, that's what would be helpful, so we can send it, and then people can fill it in, and obviously we'll have to discuss it publicly, but I think that that would be the way to. Because I already have, so the committees, obviously, strategic planning, water and sewer, street sidewalks, parking, appropriations, planning and zoning, administration. Have other options.
I'm gonna get adopted first.
I would be 100% against that with regard to some of the items that are in there, our statutory functions alone. And I've had conversations with at least two of our legal people that agree.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be better to evaluate them. And I think if we get that out to everybody, we got this week and people have 2 weeks and we can meet at that next.
I can't beat this. And I think our charter says a little small.
Or as needed.
I would
The
do that.
meeting after, I can't do it this long. I do it December.
We can still talk about it, get some of the views up.
The, Jacqueline, on your matrix, make sure you leave some blank lines at the bottom. Jim, that's where you would add it, start to consider your.
I'm not adding anything that's not vetted to the public,
Um,
but I'll add.
What was that, Jim?
I'm not adding anything that's not vetted to the public. I don't-
But it would be,
Or through this committee.
It's got, right,
Well, you
but it's got to start there, that's where it would start, though, right? So,
I don't know if I understand how, get clarification on that. And it's not that I disagree with your comment, but you were saying that you wanted to eliminate some things that the public gave. Correct?
What I'm saying is, we have this pile of things. And I'm not gonna be adding anything to this pile of things that we haven't gotten through yet until we're done getting through the original pile. So I don't need to like add things. Point well taken.
So do you want an official motion that the administration will put together a matrix? Committee members will make their recommendations on which committee action item should be assigned to, or which entity, however you want to say that, since the administration is on a committee. And then we will discuss at our next meeting.
the, that's the week of Thanksgiving already.
I'd like to participate in that if I can, so if we can push it to the first week in
And
December.
you're out that week. Is anybody else out that week? Grant, are you in town that week or what's your?
But the task you're talking, it took us 6 months to get to the framework. The task you're talking will take us 3 or 4 months in the new council. This is that as a path to nowhere. Which is why I'll vote against the motion. So whether we meet that Tuesday or December, one, we're going to see the things for this.
Okay.
Are you gonna be here that Tuesday?
At this point in time, I think so, yes.
Tuesday, are we looking at
21st.
24th?
Yeah, it's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving.
We meet every week.
We could, we have in the past.
I would suggest that.
Jim, are you in the week of, sometime the week of the 13th, next week?
I would be available the first meeting in December. But to meet every week, to me, is silly. I get what we're trying to do, but I think today, there's a reasonableness that can be expected. And yeah, there's some, if you want me, if you're gonna meet beforehand, if I'm available, I will be there. If I'm not, I won't, but I'm not available. I have a family situation I have to take care of, which I'd rather not talk about.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, that, you don't need to. So you're not gonna be on.
So I'd be
on the
available for the
21st.
first meeting in December. The size are just getting ridiculous, please stop.
Agreed.
So we have a motion on the table for, to the administration put together a matrix and to distribute to the committee, to be filled out and discussed at the next meeting. We haven't figured out what the next meeting is going to be, yes, which is fine. Actually said that. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. That is good. Let's vote on that motion. And then
Yeah,
I will
let's vote
ask
on
a
it.
procedural question.
Thank you. That's the motion. Discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. We have 2 nays. And rest ayes, so motion will pass. So we'll have we'll put together that matrix, get it out to everybody, start to put it together. When that is, now we haven't set the next meeting yet, but you had a procedural question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we'll send that out to everybody. If you can complete it and send it back to us, then we can try to put them all together so that at the next meeting, we'll be able to display them for the discussion so that it would also be viewable. I think that would be helpful.
Very good. All right. So that motion passes, we'll get that done. Then what do we want to do about our next meeting? If,
So it is, the new requirement for a meeting is 100% attendance.
it is not 100% attendance, that's been passed. I mentioned it. But understood, this is a critical situation. We're at a point where these decisions get, this is our next big, nexus of the process, is figuring out how to disseminate these action items for vetting.
So it's a requirement for this next meeting, 100% attendance.
It never has been before.
November would work better for me than December. And if we had them all ahead of time.
I will not have an opportunity to work on it. To budgets and everything else, we're in our lead time. I'm trying to delay it. I have functions I have to perform, statutory and supersede functions.
Jeff, I think we don't need to decide right at this moment. I think a meeting before the meeting on the 21st would work better. So folks have time to work on it next week. Then we could get together and I would just remind us that this is not a vote on the specific action items. It's just a recommendation on where they would be assigned to go for further vetting. So it's not the last opportunity to share concerns on.
Fair enough. Very good. With that, we will get a meeting set. As the mayor said, it's not going to be the final time to talk about this before the final. So we'll still have had a chance to talk about it, Jim, on the first meeting on December 5.
In response to that, I need to say, for the record, I find that disappointing, particularly with this ordinance. What we're doing is, and as the fiscal officer for the city, and as a peer and elected official, and in light of the fact that you folks have moved many a meeting, a person who's been having rather committees was unable to attend, but you will do what you will do. I'll abide by it. If I can attend, I will. I find it disappointing that the comments have been made regarding whether or not it's necessary for everyone to. I think it'd be wonderful for you to attend the next couple of meetings until we move further down this path. And again, not to delay it, but because it is important and you all have an important role. And I would not object to moving any meeting you were able to attend.
Very good. Other discussion?
I guess in light of that, I would suggest too that if people can attend the meeting, maybe they can submit their comments or concerns in a text message or writing. at a meeting. You have that happen as a way for you. So they are totally left out.
Let's go, let's get this, we'll get through the motion and, or get the matrix sent out, see how that comes back into us, and we'll get the meeting set after that. Again, we'll have to go through this a couple more times, no doubt, before we get it finalized. So, Jim, I don't think there'll be plenty of time for you to get your input in. We'll ultimately have to meet on the 5th again. I would like to get through this a little bit, or at least to see where we're at on that matrix prior to that, before any major decisions.
Next meeting would be when.
Still let you know.
We haven't- we
Oh,
haven't set
to be decided.
Right, let's see how fast we get, everybody gets their homework done. And we'll go from there. Okay, very good. It's 5:41. We will call this meeting to a close.
I'll just make one comment, actually. So on this copy that we gave out to you, just some clarification, the items that are highlighted, those are the response descriptions to items that have been previously discussed and ask more information. So if you have any other questions, just ask me.
Thank you, Jeff.